All right, everybody. I hope you're ready for some Ori. Let's hear it for Smashy. Good luck.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm Smashy. Commentating for me will be Rois, and he'll do most of the talking. There's a lot to explain, so give him a break. All right, so whenever we're ready, we can count down. So 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, good luck. Okay, as Smashy said, I am SmashySR. I'm going to be doing most of the talking for you because this is a highly technical speedrun. This is Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. Ori was originally released in 2015 with this Definitive Edition expansion coming out a year later, adding a few skills which are going to be very crucial for this run. So Ori is a Metroidvania, which means we're going to be platforming around and exploring, and we're going to be finding abilities that give us access to new areas. Now, crucially, we are doing the signless, bashless, stompless category, which means sign, bash, and stomp, which are all very important skills that you normally need to progress the game, are not allowed to be acquired. Particularly, bash is like one of the core abilities in Ori, but we will be skipping it entirely and still beating the game. The other requirement is we have to do all of the world events in the game. Otherwise, we'd be able to just do some glitches and go right to the end, similar to how any percent does in this game. So we still have to do all the stuff in the game, but we're not allowed to get those abilities. Now, first thing we are doing is we are taking the time to get some Spirit Light, which is kind of like experience points. And we're going to be grabbing it for a couple of reasons. One, we need to use those level ups that we get from these experience points to upgrade our abilities. And those are going to come, as those come up, we'll talk about them. But also, every time you level up, you're going to get this big explosion that comes out around you and does damage to everything. Real quick, we're going to do a little damage boost here with a trick where we take a death, and when we have invincibility frames after respawning, we're able to jump through those thorns right there. Very nice. So there's that level up explosion that I was referring to. That is our only source of damage right now because we skipped getting Sign, which is the first of those 3 skills we're not allowed to get. Sign is sort of like your standard attack. It's just a little laser that you click the button and it fires away. And we're supposed to be using Sign to kill all of these little brambles here. Now we're setting up a trick right here where we're getting a keystone, which is actually not loaded in. The keystone for these doors coming up, those actually don't spawn unless you have picked up Sign. But they actually are there for 1 frame when you first reload the game from the menu. So Smashy is skilled enough to know exactly where those keys will be, and she's saving the game and then reloading in and getting that key as it spawns, and then now opening the door. The second time she got it was with a trick called Save Anywhere, where she was opening up that menu that allows her to level up her abilities, and then glitching the game to allow her to move while that menu is still up. And when you spend your points to level those abilities up, it actually has the effect of saving the game. So she got right on top of where the key was going to be, spent that point, and it saved the game for her, and then she reloaded to get that key. So we are making our way further along now. We are going towards our next skill, which is Wall Jump. Wall Jump allows you to just grab onto walls and continue jumping up them. Right, currently, we actually don't have the ability to do that, albeit pretty much the only thing we can do right now is just kind of hop along like this. And you'll notice that this game is like really well constructed to teach you how to use all of your abilities as you acquire them. We're having to just kind of go down and down into this cave to get Wall Jump. And then to get back out of it, we have to use Wall Jump. And so the game is sort of training us how to use it. I think the level design in this game is like really impressive for tutorializing all of your abilities. And so coming up to Wall Jump here very shortly. While we are watching the cutscene of her getting to this tree and acquiring it, I want to point out a couple of things. You might notice that her health and her energy that you would normally see at the bottom of the screen are not visible. She has used a key combination on her keyboard to make that disappear. That has the effect of skipping all the dialogue in the game, so it saves us a little time. But it means that she has to be remembering how much health, how much energy, and how much experience she's at because she can't see it without turning it back on. Just acquired a energy cell right there. We're going to be collecting a number of those. Energy is important for a couple of reasons. It does allow us to save the game, which we'll be using for some glitches, and we're going to gain an ability to spend that energy to go fast later, which I'll talk about as we go on. Going to be doing another little intentional death here so that we can abuse those invincibility frames after respawning. This is actually some pretty technical movement here. It's really, really tough to make sure that when you take these hits, you get bounced in the right direction. Another tough little jump right here to try and get around that lip. Very nice. Well done. Also, quite a bit more technical than it looks just from at first glance like that. So I mentioned that she's having to keep in mind what her health and energy is at. There's also another aspect she's having to remember. She has to remember exactly how much experience she's picked up for the entire run.
Okay. You know what? I'm just going to die so we can show this off.
All right, so as she said, she's choosing to take an intentional death there because she had taken a few too many hits from that frog, and we have a damage boost coming up after that we need some health for. So she goes back to her last save, which isn't too far back, especially because she got that jump nice and quickly. So we're now right back to where we were. We're going to try and set up this frog a little bit better. All right, so getting back to what I was saying, she also has to remember exactly how much experience she's picked up, and that's going to last essentially the entire run, because right at the very end, there is a crucial trick that we must do, where she's going to be trying to time one of those level ups at a specific spot, literally right at the very end of the run, and so she needs to know exactly how much experience she's picked up from the entire run so that she can time that correctly. So there's a lot of like mental overhead in this run because you need to be keeping track of so many things. So you can see we're kind of climbing back out of the cave here. Cool little damage boost there to make sure she gets boosted in the correct direction out of there. And now that we have exited the cave where we got wall jump, we will be going on to gather our next ability, which was added in the definitive edition. We're going to be getting dash. Dash is pretty much what it sounds like. You're going to press a button and you're going to fly forward really fast. Obviously, super, super good for a speed run to be able to speed yourself up, but it's also going to have a lot of applications in this run specifically because it's going to be used in a couple of crucial glitches to let us get out of bounds and things like that. It's also going to be upgraded to a point where we can spend energy to make it go even faster. So that's kind of like the whole point of us upgrading the energies, or getting the energy cells so they can get more energy to use that charge dash ability. We use that save anywhere there to skip a cutscene. That's going to be something we're going to be seeing kind of repeatedly throughout the run. One of the ways that you can skip cutscenes in this game is you can enter the cutscene, and that will make the game flag that cutscene as having been watched. But normally you don't have any ability to save once that started. The game kind of takes control away from you, so you can't put a save point down. However, with using that save anywhere glitch where she's moving behind the menu, she is able to spend a point once she has gotten into the cutscene, and that saves the game. So then she can quit to the menu and reload it, and that skips the entire cutscene. We're going to be seeing that over and over throughout this run, and I'll point it out as it comes up. Now, in this area, you can see it's very, very dark, and the gimmick of this area is we're supposed to be going and getting this little orb and carrying it through until the end, and that will light it up. And you see you have to carry this orb on your back, and it's really, really slow. You don't jump as far. You don't have access to a lot of your abilities and things like that. So we don't want to have this orb on us for very long if we can avoid it. These lasers are all one-shot kills, by the way, and send her all the way back to her previous save.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. That's okay. I just don't want to die.
No problem, no problem. So she missed the fastest cycle on these platforms here, but they're 8 seconds long, so it's not a run killer to have missed a cycle here. So the thing that's unique about this area in Signless Dashless Stompless specifically is we don't have sign, and the way that this orb is programmed is when you put it down, it will come back to you, but only it will come to where sign is. And, intended, sign follows you around, so that will always be where you are. However, we don't have sign, so it doesn't know where to put the orb. But there is sort of a workaround where if you put down a save, the game considers sign to be at that save. So we're having to very carefully spend our energy. We have very few. It takes an entire energy to put a save down, and I think we only have 2 right now. So we'll be putting our saves in a specific spot, and then that will get the orb to come to that spot when we need it to.
Get that kind of easy.
As long as you don't die, it's perfectly fine.
I know.
So we're almost at the end of this area here. She's pulled that lever to raise this statue up, and this is where we've been bringing the orb to place it. Once she puts it in here, you're going to see that it's going to light the area up, and then we're going to be able to acquire dash from the dash tree, which is just off to our right. And you're going to see how insanely good dash is. Like, it's so fast. When you think about dashes in video games, a lot of time they kind of zoom you forward a little bit. Dash in Ori 1 is crazy fast, and we can even upgrade it to go much faster by spending energy. Late game movement in this game is phenomenal to watch because of how powerful the dash will be.
Do you need water?
No, I'm fine. Thank you, though.
Can I jump in with a quick donation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Estelle and Pierre have donated $100 with no message, so thank you very much for that. And Cedric SM has donated 50 and says, I'm going to try to French this real quick.
Okay.
Voici mon $50. Merci à tous pour les dons. Pie remember all. Gotta go fast. Stepmania hype.
All right, you're good.
Alrighty, so we are now continuing on further down into Blackroot, and there is another ability down here called Grenade, which we're actually not going to be getting. We do not need it for the speed run, but we are coming down here because we're going to be using this giant Indiana Jones boulder that's chasing us to set up an out of bounds by standing in a specific spot. That boulder pushed us through the floor, and then she put that save down, and it's actually underneath the floor out of bounds. So we're going to collect this extra health, which we need for some damage boosts towards the end, and we're also activating this little teleporter, which we're going to need for later. And then we have leveled up our ability to activate save points again. It's called Rekindling. So she's going to come down here and she's going to rekindle that save point and take a death. So the game now puts her where that save point is, which is out of bounds. So she's actually through the floor. So through some specific movement, she has now fallen into Moon Grotto, which is a much later point in the game. This probably skipped 30 minutes to an hour casually. Like this is considerably later, and we are actually right next to where we're going to be getting our next ability called Double Jump. There was if you get really, really perfect movement, you can from that out of bounds get through those crushers one cycle faster, but it is like insanely precise. It's very, very difficult. That damage she just took was intentional. She wants to be able to die to this shot right here, because if you put the keys in that door, there's actually like a pretty long animation of the door opening up, but if she dies right after having saved, then it's going to have the door animation already open. Here we are, we have acquired Double Jump, which is going to allow us to do a second jump in the air. The Ori Double Jump is pretty unique because Ori is very floaty. Like, we spend a lot of time in the air. You can see when she jumps, it doesn't actually gain her that much vertical height, but it gains us a ton of horizontal height. And there are a lot of ways that we can refresh that Double Jump. The primary one is the bash ability that we're not going to be getting, so unfortunately we're not actually going to be able to use that. But just keep in mind that a lot of Ori's movement is built around like staying in the air for as long as possible, because that's how you go quickly. Setting up another trick right here, we're trying to avoid going to the left side of this area, which you're supposed to have to do. She's going to try and get a very precise wall jump off the spot on the wall you're not supposed to be able to. Clean, very nice. That was a quick second attempt there. Like, that's much, much, much faster than going off to the side. You're now skipping another cutscene. She's putting a save down and then reactivating it when she's in the cutscene, and then reloading the game, so that bypasses that cutscene. Also has the effect of breaking. The cutscene is supposed to make it so that these boulders are falling down this shaft and you have to dodge them. But because we broke it with that manipulation, we don't actually have to deal with those boulders. Speaking of breaking, you can kind of see this is Gumo, who starts off as an antagonist in the game. We're supposed to be chasing him because he's stolen some stuff from us. We're supposed to be going through this area in the other direction. All of these spots where you're seeing Gumo frozen and like double layered here, that is because we're supposed to be looking at coming from the other side where it's playing these cutscenes. And what we're doing right now is we're skipping one of those cutscenes where this bridge is supposed to break and drop us all the way down. But by using that rekindle to skip that cutscene, we were able to move before the bridge broke and get back out of it. So keep in mind, we're doing this entire area essentially backwards. We're supposed to have come from the top and gone down. A quick little dip off to the left here to get a energy cell. The amount that we need is we're getting as little as we possibly can. We need all the energy we will be collecting in order to use those glitches with things like those.
That's actually all the energy and health.
Yeah, so we are done with collecting energy and health, and we keep in mind this is a really, really low amount. Like by the end of a normal casual playthrough, you'd probably have like 10 to 15 health and energy, and we're gonna be rocking about 4 and 5 health. So like this run is very dangerous because we have no safety buffers. Still continuing to take the time to collect a little bit of that experience, because we do keep in mind we need to spend those points for skipping cutscenes and for doing glitches, and then we also need to get exactly close enough to a level up to do that glitch right at the very end that I've talked about.
And we need that level up right there to kill that frog for the experience, because we have no other way to do it.
Keep in mind, we still have no actual attacks because we don't have Sign, and we also are skipping Stomp, which is another pretty good attack.
What is going on?
This jump is a lot tougher than it looks. A little bit more experience there. Those are more of those points that we're going to get for spending for glitches and things like that. All right, so this area we're in we're supposed to have come here before that Gumo's hideout area that we were in before with all of the backwards like frozen Gumos. But we're coming here just to activate this teleporter because we will need to be coming back to this area later. As I mentioned right at the start, you are required to do all of the world events, and the world events consist of 3 dungeons and getting the 3 keys to those dungeons. So it's a total of 6 world events. So that teleporter was actually right below the first dungeon, although we're actually going to be doing it last because this category is really broken. We're going to be like completely destroying the intended progression. So we'll actually be coming back there at the very end. So it's useful to have that teleporter later. We're setting up something called a key duplication, which we're going to be, you can see we have one key up in the top right there. We put that one key in that door, and then we've taken an intentional death, and this save point that she put down was outside of the loading zone of that door. And the actual technical specifics of it, I don't fully understand, but the ultimate effect is we end up duplicating that key that was in the door. So we now actually have two keys and don't have to spend time going to collect another one. And so we were able to open this door despite the fact that we only started with one key. Now that's something that's going to be coming back later. We don't do much duplication here because that door takes a while to die on and you can only put one key in. But later on, we're going to have a much faster door where you can put in up to 3 keys to duplicate. And it's going to be much, much, much better. So this part is supposed to have come quite a bit earlier. We're supposed to be climbing our way through this and going on and out this door up to the top. There's a 4 keystone door where we collect these 4 keystones and go through it. And then we are going to be getting our next ability, which is Charge Flame. Charge Flame will be our first attack that we've acquired, but we're not really going to be able to actually use it for that because Charge Flame has a couple of restrictions. 1, it requires energy to use, and we have very little to spare. And 2, it's like this explosion that you charge up and it blows up, but it targets where sign is, and we don't have sign, so again, we're not actually able to use it, just like no questions asked. But we are again going to be using that exploit where sign is considered to be where your save point is. You saw Smashy off to the left there, put a save by that blue rock, which will actually be breaking to get through to a later game area, and you're supposed to do that with Charge Flame, which is what we'll be doing, but in a little bit of an unintended way, because we'll be using that save point exploit. Here is just a little bit of cutscene that we are forced to watch. We're getting a little bit of lore. This is supposed to be pretty early on, where Sign teaches us about the 3 dungeons that we're supposed to be going to. As speedrunners, obviously, we know about that already, but unfortunately, that is a cutscene that we can't really reasonably skip in this speedrun. We're getting the Save Anywhere menu up to save to spend some points. This is an interesting part right here. We're going to be doing this quit to menu because by skipping that cutscene, we're able to move while this little cutscene at the tree plays. And during this, there's a door off to the right we are not able to break. And but during that cutscene, it's unloaded. So by spending those points to be able to move during that cutscene, she's able to dash off to the right there and get past that door before it loads in. All right, so having a little bit more XP, and then we're going to reactivate the save point and quit to menu, and she's going to be charging up that Charge Flame, and boom, breaks the door even though we don't actually have sign anywhere. That's a really, really cool exploit. I think it's like pretty awesome that that actually works. We're having just a little bit more experience, and we're now going to be heading into Valley of the Wind. Now, Valley of the Wind is supposed to be blocked by this post you have to stomp on. However, we're going to be doing something called a Terra Clip, which is basically a trick that lets you get out of bounds almost anywhere once we have dash. What she's doing is she's getting right next to a wall, and she's dashing at it and spending a point on that menu at the same time to save the game. And then she leaves the area and takes a death. And when the game loads back in, it takes it just a little tiny bit of time to load those walls back in. But we're already dashing at the wall as we load back in. And she has moved through the wall before it loads in and gets us out of bounds. That's allowed us to get in here. Now we're going to be doing a trick called a rocket jump, where we charge jump at an enemy and then jump immediately, and that interrupts the deceleration. Oh no!
It's fine. I couldn't make it over there.
Okay, so we wanted to get all the way up to that top there. Unfortunately, we're not able to, so we had to reactivate that teleporter there to get some energy back and reset up this rocket jump. So that gives me more time to talk about the rocket jump. You charge dash at the enemy and then jump to interrupt it, and we just get insane vertical height. And now we're going to be setting up another trick. This is the Valley of the Wind. This is like a big, large open area. Now that's the antagonist of the game, Kuro, right there. What you're supposed to do is stomp on those rocks above her head to hit her with those rocks and get her to leave. But we don't have stomp, so what we're doing is we are using this charge jump exploit off the save, or charge flame exploit off the save to blow up the charge flame and redirect this spider's little fireballs at a really specific angle. And she's going to get it to like redirect at the specific angle and then dash way off to the side. This is a really, really hard trick, by the way. She's like, it takes a lot of setup to get this trick. Okay, that looks good. She's dashing off to the right so that she gets out of the load zone and unloads some of the terrain that's in the way of that shot. And then it hits that and breaks the rocks and knocks her on her head. Even though we have like no skills that actually let us do that trick, really, really, really difficult and lets us use that spider shot to do it anyway. And you'll notice like that cutscene forces Ori to spawn in here. So even though we had dashed way off to the right, it kind of pulls us in here towards Feather, which is a glide ability. When you're in the air, you can just hold down the glide button and it like slows your fall. So that's going to let us stay in the air even longer. So now we're going to be doing yet another rocket jump to get up to that save well we already had. Very nice. By the way, drawing attention to every time she dashes, you'll notice that little rainbow effect behind her. That was the donation incentive for this run, was the rainbow dash. That's normally an Easter egg where you have to activate in a very specific spot. But with the donation incentive, we were able to get it activated ahead of time. We're now in Misty Woods, which is my personal favorite area of Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a really cool area. It kind of is like the Lost Woods from Zelda. You go through it straight. It seems like a straightforward path when you go through it, but you'll keep doubling back on yourself, and the terrain will have changed as you come back. So it's a very like trippy, confusing sort of area. And there is an ability in here called Climb, which we don't actually need for this run. The only entire reason we're coming in here is because of the fact that the terrain keeps shifting. A lot of Misty Woods is actually unloaded right now. So we're going to be coming over here, and we're going to be using that Terra Clip trick that we had talked about to get out of bounds. Now, if you zoom the entire map of the game out, we're actually right above the second dungeon of the game, which is called Forlorn Ruins. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up this Terra Clip to get out of bounds here, and then we're going to fall through kind of like the out of bounds void between here and there to get into that dungeon, even though we have not yet acquired the key to get into it. The key to get into that dungeon is actually at the end of this area we're in, and we will come back for it later, but in a much, much cooler way than actually doing it. So she is out of bounds behind this menu here. She's dashing off into the out of bounds void. You can see it's just kind of like a gray, formless void right here. She's going to hold off to the right here, and then boom, we are in the end of Forlorn Ruins. She has gotten into the second dungeon without a key.
I just like slid across there. I don't know what happened to that.
That was a little funky. So, not only have we bypassed getting the key, we have also gotten to the very end of the dungeon, completely skipped having to do any of it. Now, activating this escape here is what gives us the world event for the second dungeon, but we don't want to actually have to do the entire thing. It's very, very slow. So what we do instead is we still have the Save Anywhere menu up. Once the cutscene gets far enough in, we are going to save and exit, and it's going to put us outside the room. And it's given us credit for finishing the escape, even though we never actually did it. So we have fulfilled the requirement of doing the second dungeon. And now that we're out of it, we're going to be coming and activating this teleporter. And this can be useful for a few reasons. You'll see that the dungeon in this area, its gimmick is like this gravity reversal stuff you do with its orb. And that's actually going to come into play in some very cool ways in just a minute. But first, we're going to duplicate a bunch of keystones on this door. This is that fast one I was talking about. You can see we were able to duplicate. We're up to 7 keys now. Now we're going to use a variant of that Save Anywhere trick called Teleport Anywhere, and we're going to gain the ability to move during this teleport animation. We're going to grab that orb and get sideways on the wall, and now that we're out, bam, our gravity has been shifted to the left, and we're now falling into Misty Woods, which we were in earlier. But you'll notice because we kind of glitched out of it, a lot of it is not loaded in. So we're just falling through what's supposed to be Misty Woods right now. Super, super cool. We have just fallen to the complete end of Misty Woods. So through all of this, not only did we skip the entirety of the Forlorn Dungeon, we've also skipped the entire second half of Misty Woods with that gravity shenanigan. And we now are just able to go to the right here and get the key into the dungeon we just completed. So when I told you this run is really, really broken, I was not joking. We have completely broken the progression of the game. So we've glitched this orb onto our back here so we can carry it even though we're dashing around. This is the spot where we bring the orb to in order to get the key into that second dungeon. Just a couple of cutscenes we have to kind of skip through in order to get that key. So I did not bring attention to it, unfortunately, back at the time, but we've already acquired, way back when we were doing this hideout, we got the key to the first dungeon already as the water vein. So if you're keeping track, we have gotten the key to the first dungeon and the key to the second dungeon, and we have completed the second dungeon. So all that remains left is to finish the first dungeon and then the key and completing the third one. So our next task is going to be to go get the key to the third dungeon because it's up and to the right of us right now, so we're pretty close to it. It's an area called Sorrow Pass, which is a very dangerous late game area. You can see it's like everything is completely covered in spikes. and these spikes do 4 damage. We have only 5 health if we're full, so we have very, very little margin for error. If we take a hit, like, everything becomes lethal immediately. This is a pretty tough setup here where we're going to do this rocket jump at a specific time to get that shot from the frog to follow us up. We don't actually have any good way to break that roof other than to bait that frog shot up there for us. So that bypasses like the entire left-hand side of Sorrow Pass by being able to do that. So we're just floating through this area, sort of affectionately dubbed the Nacho Cavern by some runners because of what the little like spikes look like.
Ow.
Okay, because we don't have Stomp, we don't have any way to break this floor right here, so we're trying to get that frog to break it for us. Fortunately, we did. That was pretty spooky. We had taken a lot of damage there. Fortunately, activating these trees does heal us. So we just got the charge jump ability, which allows you to hold up for a little bit, and it charges your first jump, and it's going to make you shoot up. You're going to do a lot of damage, and you also will be able to break a lot of things with that charge jump ability. Now, we're almost done with the Sorrow Pass area. We just have to acquire the...
I wanted to hit it once, but then I got stuck.
Yeah,
it's okay.
She is trying to take one hit so that she's close to death.
There's my hit.
Trying to take one hit so she's close to death because we're going to be doing a trick called a Terra break. You'll notice a lot of our tricks are named after Terra because he's found a lot of them.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, it's okay. Gives me a little more time to explain this. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting up against a ceiling that we don't have any way to break, and we're going to be, while we're up against it, we're going to save by spending a point, and then we're going to take a death by charge jumping into some spikes. And then when we reload, the game is going to put us up against the ceiling, and it's going to carry over that charge jump effect from the death. And that charge jump does break the ceiling, even though we didn't actually have the range to get up to it. So that broke that ceiling for us, and we can now just float all the way up to the top where we acquire the key to the 3rd dungeon. It's unfortunate we have the menu in front of this area because this is like one of the most pretty vistas in the game. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love to get into this part casually for sure.
Can I take a quick moment for donation?
Yeah, that's fine.
We have a $200 donation from Insomniac Toaster saying, "Good luck, Smashy and Roos." Heart emoji.
Thanks, Toasty.
Any others? You can probably get maybe 1 or 2 more in while we come out of here.
That is all we have right now, but remember that every donation is for charity, so get those donations in.
So we are going to be just kind of falling straight down this shaft back out of Sorrow Pass here, and we're going to be going to that teleport that we had activated earlier. Next thing we need to do is we need to go and we need to complete that the very first dungeon, the tree that we were underneath earlier. So we're going back to that teleporter that we had activated right at the start, and we're going to be going into the Ginso tree here. This was supposed to be the first one we do normally. There's really no reason for us to have done it early because it's got the skill that it has in it is Bash, which is one of the ones we obviously are not allowed to get. So we don't gain anything from having gone in there. And the fact that we've come here later with all of these abilities means we're able to do it much faster. So just a kind of a little bit of smart routing where we put this off until we're able to do it in the most optimal way possible. So this tree, it's obviously being a tree, it's very tall and narrow, so the whole dungeon is going to be like this sort of narrow room where we just climb up and up and up and up. So the fact that we have this charge up ability that makes us go upwards very quickly is really important for doing this area quickly. So we're coming up close to that part where we had been routing our experience for the entire run. When we get to the very top of this dungeon, there is going to be a room where there's these like purple brambles on both sides, and we need to break. No. Oh no! She was trying to use her charge dash to redirect this.
It's okay.
This shot.
If you can get the first cycle, it's just faster, but it's okay. I have energy.
Very nice. All right, so there's got a little mini boss we have to kill here. This is part of the experience we have routed in. Again, when we get to the very top, there are 2 halves, each of which we're supposed to solve a puzzle to break. Unfortunately, because we do not have Stomp, we actually have no way to do the right-hand side puzzle. However, if you do the left-hand side puzzle and you come into the room with the 2 brambles on both sides and you level up, that damage wave is going to go out and break both of them for you, even though you haven't done the right-hand side. That's the Bash tree. Everybody wave bye to the Bash tree. So she knows exactly how much experience she's at right now, and she's keeping very close track of it. When we get to the top of here, she's going to kill an enemy, and its experience is going to start magneting towards us, and she's going to race away from it, so that it catches up to her at the exact right time to level up and solve both sides of the puzzle at the same time. Just collecting a few extra keystones because we need 4 to go through this door right here. One more little ghost door so we don't have to watch that animation. And one final mini-boss that we're going to get some experience from as well. So this is the top of Ginso, where we're going to be doing the left-hand side room first. To avoid all these enemies, we're able to break this wall with charge jump. The corresponding one on the other side is the one that we can't get. So this is going to put us very close to the level up, and now we're going to kill that frog with charge jump, and the experience chases you, level up, and kill both sides of the brambles with level up wave. That was beautifully done. That was really, really cleanly executed. Great job.
I know like what each thing, like how much each thing gives me, so I can just add it up. It's
Very
usually
nicely
pretty
done.
close to the same for every run, so within a few.
Alrighty. So we are now on to the Ginso Escape, which is, I think, a definite fan favorite part. This is like a really big, flashy set piece where we're running away from this water here. And with all these abilities, we're going to be able to do it really quickly, but the water actually rubber bands to us, so no matter how fast we go, it's still going to catch up immediately. So this area is still quite dangerous. And the top of it, there's no way to get through it without bash other than doing some damage boosts. So we're going to have 2 damage boosts we have to do, and we can't take any extra damage because then we won't be able to take the extra damage boost. That was a little spooky there. So here's our first one. We're charge jumping out of it. Now we got a damage boost off these spikes on the right. And she made it. Very nice. That jump is really tight. If you don't get maximum height out of it, you won't quite grab onto that wall and you fall back into the spikes and take a death. And you have to redo the entire escape over again. There's no checkpoints in it. So very cleanly done. That was nice.
Yay.
All right, so first dungeon is done. First key to the dungeon, the key to the first dungeon is done. Second dungeon and its key are done. And we have the key to the third dungeon. We have not collected sign or bash or stomp, so all that remains to be done is to do the final dungeon. So we're going to have to Terra Clip out of here because this is where we were supposed to acquire stomp. And the game, as I mentioned, the game typically gives you a skill and then forces you to use it to learn. So we don't really have a good way to get out of here without acquiring stomp. So we're going to be using that Terra Clip to get through that wall there. Very nicely done. Now we just have to head off to the left and get to a teleporter that we've used before. Jumping over a quick little cutscene trigger right there. Very nice job to get over it. You can tell like just how insanely much experience Smashy has with this game to know like every little detail of where all the cutscene triggers and things like that are. Alright, so we are now going to be setting up another one of those teleport tricks where we are going to be gaining the ability to move during the teleport animation. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting on this little wood here, and we're going to be rocking it back and forth so that it's at an angle when the teleport goes off, and that angle will skew our teleport.
Perfect.
Nice. So rather than actually going where the teleport was supposed to, that skew actually changed the direction the teleport took her and takes her right to the front door of the final dungeon. So we didn't have to walk here at all. Now, if you're wondering, how are we going to get through all of the rooms of this dungeon, don't worry. Doing all of these without our abilities would be really, really awful. So what we're going to do instead is switch where she's going to perfectly time entering that door, literally on the frame the game reloads back in, and it moves you down and to the left, which happens to put you right at the very end of the dungeon, completely bypassing all of Forlorn. So we are now at the start of the final escape. This is what's going to complete the third dungeon of World Event for us, which is the last one we need, and also going to beat the game for us. So we're almost through here. However, the final escape here is no joke. This is the hardest escape in the game, I think. It's the most deadly for sure.
Whoa.
And it's supposed to require... Oh, okay, so we can't take any damage here because we have a planned damage boost that does 4 of our 5 health. We must take no damage the entire escape other than that one intentional hit. Now, the reason we have to take that hit is because we have not acquired Bash. The game knows you're supposed to have every ability at this point, so it really throws so much difficult stuff at you. But through how incredibly good she is, she's able to bypass it. That was the damage boost right there. She got out of it very cleanly. This part's coming up here is still really scary though, because these fish will come at you, and if she is not able to dodge them perfectly, she's going to take a hit and die. Does get past them very cleanly, very nice. One last little pit here where she has to stay on the left-hand side wall here to keep Kuro from spawning and coming in and killing her. Very nice. We have avoided spawning Kuro, so we just have to kind of get up here, and very nice. Well done. Okay, so time is not quite yet because there's still technically inputs left to be done, but nothing difficult remains. All she has to do is hold down right, because this final cutscene has a little bit of movement in it, but literally just holding down the key to go to the right is all that's left to be done. So the run is essentially over, but once our final input is done, that's when time will be called. We'll call out time when it actually comes up. But Smash, you got any shout outs you want to give while we're waiting?
Of course, thank you for commentating. And to the Ori community, I know I say this every time, but if it weren't for everybody in the Ori community, I probably wouldn't be running this game. Everybody's amazing. So shout outs to everybody in there. So. And if you're curious about, Ori runs in general, we have a Discord, and you can see it on the speedrun.com page if you're interested in joining.
Yeah, I'll second all of that. The Ori community is absolutely phenomenal. All right, so we're going to have time coming up here shortly. We gain control of this character Naru, who we've not really seen in the speedrun because we've skipped all of her stuff. But when we pass behind a tree coming up, it's going to be time. Time will be right now. Congratulations.
GG.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right.
While the cutscene runs, can I get a quick donation right in?
And
sorry, what? You both were talking. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
What did you say?
Oh, I just wanted to say thanks to all the Ori runners for showing up in chat, and thanks to NoReset for taking this very cool game.
Okay. All right, G, you're good.
Well, thank you to the both of you for such an amazing run. And real quick, I just wanted to put in that $100 donation by Sophie Robert, who says quel beau projet, bien hâte d'aller visiter Olivier dans sa nouvelle demeure. Merci beaucoup, Sophie Robert. So it's been this is Ori and the Blind Forest, which was only part one of our two-parter of our Ori double feature. Ori and the Will of the Wisp is coming up next with SmashySR, who I'm guessing will take too long to set up. So. So we're just gonna go to a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.